Genshin has some not so new characters coming out, and if you're watching this video, you don't know who to choose. Or you just like hearing the sound of my lovely voice. Regardless, I'm not good at intros, so let's dissect this frog early like high school biology class, which I never got to take because of COVID. Yae Miko is an electrocatalyst user who, above all things, has quite the loyal fan base. However, just because you have 1,000 subscribers on OnlyFans doesn't guarantee you'll be good at smacking around the ball of deer. Let's get into her abilities. For Yae Miko's first ability, she dashes and summons a sussy Sakura, which periodically strikes an enemy nearby. You can place up to 3 of these LED gamer butt plugs and they'll level up if they're near each other, obviously doing more damage. If she didn't have another ability, this character would be the worst 5-star ever released. Luckily for her, Tartaglia exists. Ahem. And characters have elemental bursts. Speaking of which, great secret art, Rurouni Kenshin. Yae Miko's burst summons a shrine that calls down a bolt of lightning, doing some slick AoE damage. But if you thought that was it, you definitely didn't play during her first release. Or you just didn't give a shit. There's a reason why people call her Yae Miko. Anyway, if your divine judgment grazes your gamer butt plugs, they spontaneously combust and turn the enemies into a live leak video. But what about her passives? Her first Ascension passive is very easy to understand but very hard to put into words. For every butt plug you sacrifice by using her burst, you reset the cooldown of 1 butt plug. So if you use the maximum of 3 and use your burst, you will reset the cooldown of all 3 butt plugs. Her second Ascension passive increases the damage of your sussy Sakuras by 0.15% for every point of elemental mastery you have. And her utility passive doesn't matter. So yeah, TLDR, place your butt plugs, press Q, repeat. Her normal attacks are pretty cool too. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist for Yae Miko. Now we get to talk about a character I have a little bit more experience on, considering I pulled him. I'll try and keep this one short because Tartaglia has been featured in a banner 3 other times already. If you don't have him by now, you probably never will. But let's get into his abilities. Now Tartaglia is a bipolar bitch, so he has 2 normal attacks. I just realized I'm already sounding like a full-on hater. I don't hate Tartaglia. I think he's fun. I think he's good. Kind of. Now the normal attacks with his bow are pretty poo-poo dog water smooth brain, but his charged attacks do hydro damage and they apply Riptide. Now Riptide pretty much makes whoever's affected by it a conduit for his big deeps. Now Riptide is activated by hitting an enemy with either a charge shot or just unaliving them. Now Tartaglia's other set of normal attacks are activated by pressing E. By pressing E or the corresponding button on an inferior device, you conjure 2 water blades, which look like shadow daggers, which look like butt plugs. You know, I'm starting to realize these characters have a lot more in common than I thought. The only difference is that Dendro actually makes one of them good now. Anyway, they obviously do hydro damage and release an extra Riptide slash every 1.5 seconds. Sounds cool, right? Well, too bad the cooldown is like 30 fucking seconds. Well, to be fair, it does do a lot of damage, and the form doesn't exactly have to last 30 seconds, depending on how long you activate it for. I just like shitting on Tartaglia. Now, Tartaglia's burst is also bipolar. In bow mode, he shoots out a hydro-imbued magic arrow? Wait, what? That is such a weird way to word it. Anyway, it explodes. Now if you're in butt plug mode, he does a large AoE slash, and if they add Riptide on them, they explode again. Now let's see Paul Allen's talents. His first talent extends his Riptide duration by 8 seconds, which is an overall increase in DPS. His second Ascension passive is also very good. While in his butt plug mode, dealing a critical hit applies Riptide to enemies. Now unlike Yae Miko's, Tartaglia's utility passive is quite unique, as it ups the talent level of the party's normal attacks by 1. That's pretty much the gist for Tartaglia though. Depending on what kind of player you are, this next section could heavily impact your decision. For Yae Miko, the constellation you want to look out for her are C1 and her C2. Unlike most other 5 stars, Yae Miko is relatively low investment, at least for your wallet. Getting the extra level on her sussy Sakura is nice, and her C1 gives her more elemental energy, making rotations a lot easier. For Tartaglia, you want to look out for his C1, C3, C4, and C6. However, I'd say the most important one is his first constellation. This is because it decreases the cooldown of your E by 20%. This doesn't sound like a lot, but it makes his gameplay way more fluid. No pun intended. It's almost like he was meant to be played that way. But why would Genshin do that? They're not objectively evil, guys. Now before we get into my completely objective opinion regarding who you should pick, there's an elephant in the room we haven't discussed. A very sleepy elephant. Now I know that Layla is a 4-star, and you can get her in either banner, but she is a new character and there has been quite the hype surrounding her. I've heard claims as outrageous as her being the Bennett killer. the woman behind the slaughter of it. Regardless, she seems pretty fun and I really hope I can pull her. Pull her? I don't even know her. You know, I'm actually not going to go into detail about her because I'm already going to make a video about her, so just watch that instead. The most important thing you need to know is that she has a shield, kind of like Diona's, but like none of the furry shit. Oh yeah, and her burst is like Nick Cannon because it wiles the fuck out. Regarding the other 4 stars on the banner, Heizo's really fucking fun, and Toma's pretty solid if you need a shield unit that is literally nobody else. Well, that's enough foreplay. Who do I want you to pull for? If you have a good weapon for either character, then they're the obvious choice, but if you're going in blind, weaponless, and maidenless, I suggest you pull for Yae Miko. Though if you are actually maidenless, then I'd recommend you pull some bitches. I mean, the 5 stars in this rotation are pretty fucking mid to be honest, but Tartaglia without constellations is really clunky. No, I'm not hating on Tartaglia. Skip back to a couple minutes prior if you want to see that. He is a good character and can do a shit ton of damage if you use him right, but so does every other character in Genshin Impact. It seems as if the power creep has already caught up to him. Now, Genshin Impact isn't a competitive game, and quite frankly, I don't think it ever will be. Regardless, we are comparing him to Yae Miko, another underwhelming 5-star with a rabid fan base and butt plugs. However, one of these 5 stars got an indirect buff with the release of the Dendro element, and that 5-star is, of course, Yae Miko. Now yes, Tartaglia did also benefit from the release of Dendro as much as every other element did, but when you're comparing him to Yae Miko, the difference is clear. I might just be looking through Sakura-colored glasses though. If you have the money to shell out for Tartaglia's constellations, then he is very worth it. And even then, if you are going for constellations, then Yae Miko is still a better bang for your buck. Not everybody has OnlyFans pockets. I sure don't, which is why I really need you to leave a like and a comment. And maybe a subscribe would be kinda cool too. I'm not done with the video yet, so don't click off. If I'm being honest, I'm more excited for the 4 stars in this banner than I am the 5 stars. But that isn't really a hot take. I'm actually thinking about starting a second Genshin account, and I believe this banner will be a great one to start on. Regardless of how I feel about Yae Miko and Child Predator, they're definitely solid characters with good kits, but if you can pull on anybody else, please do. Anyway, let me know if I'm a fuckwit in the comments below. Or just tell me what your favorite flavor of ice cream is. I've always been a great divide kind of guy, you know? A little bit of chocolate, a little bit of vanilla. It's perfect. Thanks for watching the video, and remember, I still haven't come up with a good outro phrase yet.